Now, I'm actually going to start at the end and work my way backwards, purely because a few things have happened this morning in preparation, and things went drastically wrong. So I really feel like the Lord was actually telling me there's a lot of stuff I've written here, but some of it's more important than others. So what I'm going to do is, and through the stuff that's gone on this morning, which I'll explain in a minute, he's helped me to prioritise them a little bit, so that's good. I'll start off by saying that the enemy really didn't want me to be here today. Yesterday I was supposed to have been sorting out the last bits of preparation and printed my notes off and things like that, and instead I ended up spending 7 hours at a conference, at a prison conference, and so that took a lot of. When I got home I was so tired that I said, do I stay up tonight and get everything ready, or do I go to sleep, set my alarm and get up early? So I thought I'll set my alarm and get up early. So I set my alarm for 5:30 this morning, and I woke up at 8:30 this morning. And so all my preparation time had gone, and I was absolutely stressed out. And I got in the shower, and amazingly, I started to sing, "There is power in the blood, and the battle belongs to the Lord." And what were the first two songs when they come in this morning? Those. So I think he was trying to tell me that absolutely everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it was quite a bad morning. Very, very stressful. I couldn't get the printer to work. I couldn't get the printer to print my notes off. All sorts of problems, and I've actually noticed now that these are the problems that Mum also has a lot when she's talking. All the time she's actually come to talk here, she's never once been able to get her notes to print off properly in the morning. She's always had problems, and now I'm having the same problems. But with a bit of fighting, I did manage to get them printed off, and I managed to get the notes printed off as Barbara was knocking on my door to pick me up. So I had to say, you're going to have to hang on a minute whilst I get everything ready. But I'm also preaching again this evening, and the notes for this evening are still on the computer. So I brought my computer with me, I brought my printer with me, and whilst we're having lunch, I'm going to sit and print them off. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a bad morning. But when I was at the conference yesterday, the prison conference, I actually realised that it's been a year, nearly to the day, that I started coming to this church. I didn't start coming properly full-time sort of every single week until actually after Christmas. It was in the new year. But the first time that I actually came to this church for myself, rather than just coming along with the Walk Project or Tim or people like that, the first time I actually came for myself was a year ago this weekend. So I thought that was quite amazing. I asked Scott to sing Mighty Saviour Lifted High, because what I'm going to talk to you about is that the last sentence of that song, "The same power lives in us," that's what I'm going to try to get out to you today. As you know from the testimonies I've given before, I'm not well. I'm not a well person. I do have a lot of illnesses. I've got Crohn's disease, which, to be honest, I'll let you Google if you want to know more about that, because it's a rather unpleasant thing to sit and discuss. I've got ulcerative colitis, depression, arthritis, type 2 diabetes, and Asperger's syndrome. So it's quite a lot of things. And this time last year, when I started coming to this church, I was on 28 tablets a day. I've just counted how many I'm on today. I'm down to 16. Now, Yeah, go on. 'Cause it's healing. Now, I was in hospital. I've been in hospital a few times with Crohn's disease. It puts you so bad, you go into isolation. They lock you away in like a quarantine, it's like a side room, but nobody's allowed. You're not allowed visitors to start with because you're literally under quarantine. They think that you're an infection risk to the rest of the hospital. And in fact, the ward that I go on, the first time I went on it, I was so ill, I shut the ward down. They let me on, and then they let nobody on afterwards, and they let nobody go home either, because they were worried that I'd infected the entire hospital ward. So, and that was the time when I spoke. I said about this the last time I spoke, because that was the time when Mum had to come and see me, and she couldn't even come into the room. She had to talk to me through the glass. And the only thing that I actually had with me, other than a few changes of clothes, was a message version of the Bible and a PlayStation Portable which had loads of worship music on. And so for the first week I didn't do anything, because the first week I was so out of it. I was hooked up to 8 different machines. 4 of them were drips. So that's not good. And the doctors, I could hear sort of bits, because you're drifting in and out of consciousness the whole time, so you don't really catch what's going on. But I remember bits of the conversation that Mum would be having with the doctors outside the door, and they were basically saying if you'd have brought him here a day later, he wouldn't have made it, he'd have died. So that was the closest I've came. But since then I've been back in a few times in the same room, but the condition wasn't as bad, but they still wouldn't let me out. Once they put me in the side room, that was it. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. But these times I were allowed to have visitors come in to see me. And Simon from the Walk Project came in, and he said, I've put you on a healing prayer page on Facebook. I went, oh, right, yeah. He said, there's 10,000 subscribers to it. He said, and I've put you on a few others. He said, so you've got in excess of 10,000 people praying for you to be healed. Wow. Now, I've had, over the years that I've had this, I got diagnosed with this when I was 21. That was in 2004. And 2002. And since then, I've had a lot of people come and pray. I've had actually over 100 people lay hands on my bowel, and to no effect, nothing. Just nothing seemed to happen. But when Simon said, "I'll put you on this prayer page," he said, "You've got over 10,000 people praying for you now." One of the major things that you have with this illness is chronic fatigue. I mean, it literally feels like you're dragging bricks around on your hands and legs and ankles. The energy is just sucked from you, completely sucked from you. And for a long time, when I came out of hospital, that was it. In fact, for 2 years of my life, nearly 2 years of my life, I didn't get out of bed. The only times I actually got out of bed was to either go down to the kitchen and make something to eat or go to the loo, and I'd be back in bed again. And it was horrible, and the fatigue was just getting worse and worse and worse. And then, like I say, eventually I went into hospital, and Simon came and he said, "Right, I've got all these people praying for you now." He said, "And you don't know the power of prayer." He said, "Because you've never felt it." He said, "So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you about the power of prayer." And he started to pray, and he started to tell me about the prayer of Jabez. And the prayer of Jabez comes from 1 Chronicles 4-10, chapter 4, verse 10. It says, "Jabez cried out to the God of Israel, 'Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from the harm, so I will be free from pain. And God granted his request. Now, if you read the whole story, that's just one section of the prayer of Jabez, but if you read the whole story, you'll see that God told him to pray that same prayer every day for 30 days straight. So that's what I did. I did the same. I thought, okay, Simon told me to do it, so I thought, okay, fine, I'll do it. Why not? I've got nothing else to gain, nothing medically is working for me. So why not? Let's try it. And I prayed that for the next month, and I was in hospital for the next 2 weeks of that month, and I got out and I went home. And so for the next 2 weeks at home, I prayed that same prayer every day, the first thing in the morning when I got up, that was the prayer that I said. And I read the story, and over time, gradually I started to get better. The energy started to return. I could get up, I could do things, simple things. Not massively, I couldn't go out for long 10-kilometre runs or anything like that. I didn't have that kind of energy. But I could get out and go to the shops and just look after myself a lot more. And over time, I started to get a lot better. And then Simon said, look, he said, I've got some work I need you to do in the office. He said, I've got a lot of accounting work to do. And I said, okay, I can do accounting work, that's what I'm trained to do. He said, but I need you to come into the office to do it. And the office it was here at the time, it was in the Bethel. So I said, all right, okay. So I started to come 1 day a week, and then I had more energy. So I started to come 2 days a week, and I had more energy. And I started to come 3 days a week, I had more energy. And eventually I was here Monday to Friday. And it was fine. It was like I was back to normal, just completely restored. And I found that, and Barbara's spoken to me about this before, she said, how are you feeling?